Hello dear students, welcome back. This is yet another video from Dr.Anil's Botany. Today let us see the evolution, the first theory of evolution, that is Lamarckism. Shall we move on to the topic? So Lamarck's theory, that is this theory is otherwise called theory of inheritance of acquired character. Lamarckism was proposed by Jean-Baptiste Pierre Anthony de Monet, Chevalier de Lamarck. This is the full name of Lamarck. Jean-Baptiste Pierre Anthony de Monet, Chevalier de Lamarck. And this theory, we can divide three portions. That is, the first thing is, that is theory. And the second session, we should deal with the examples of Lamarck's theory. And in the third session, it is the criticism of Lamarck's theory. In this way, we can divide this Lamarck's theory into three sessions. And what this theory basically followed. The basic principle of this theory, the changes that occurring in an individual during its lifetime are inherited by its offspring, right? The persons or the individuals, the changes that occurring in an individual during its lifetime are inherited by its offspring. And this include, four postulates. Lamarck's proposed four postulates. The first one is new needs. Second one is use and disuse. Third one is inheritance of acquired characters. And the last one is speciation. So let us see one by one. What is new needs? The environment influences all organisms, all living beings. Slight change in the environment brings about changes in the organism. And this gives rise to new needs, which in turn produces new structures and, the changes the habits of the organism. New structures are developed. Because of new needs, new structures are developed. These structures, that is new needs, the new structures are produced. And the second one is use and disuse. The new needs, new organs may develop, and these organs use in continuous or frequently used, then it must be transmitted. And when it is not used, it sometimes it become an vestigial organ. It become functionless. That is use and disuse theory or changes. The first thing is new needs. According to new needs, new organs may develop, and these organs, frequently used. When it is used, it become very active, and when it is not in use, it gradually become an inactive condition or vestigial organ. And third one is, these characters. The above said characters, new needs, no organs developed, that is frequently used, and these characters, these acquired characters, it is transmitted to their offspring. It is transmitted to the offspring. Acquired characters are transmitted. Okay, could you follow me? Then the last one, speciation. The new need, new organ develop, use and disuse. Then these acquired characters are transmitted to the offspring. Then it produces a new species. A new species may be originated. And Lamarck believed that in every generation new characters are acquired and transmitted to the next generation, so that new characters accumulate generation after generation. After a number of generations, a new species is formed. This is the basic principle about this theory. new needs, use and disuse, acquired characters are inherited. Then finally what happens, a new species is originated. And this is the first session of Lamarck's theory. The Lamarck's theory, in the first session, new needs. Because of the new needs, the individuals or organisms develop new characters. New organs may develop for sustaining that particular situation. Then these organs, if you frequently used, the individuals frequently used that organ, and if it is not used, that become gradually functionless, become a vestigial organ. Then these acquired characters may be inherited to the offspring. Acquired characters are inherited. He believes so. And finally what happens, these new characters are inherited and it is transmitted to the offspring. Then finally a new species is produced. That much about that. Then we can see the examples of this Lamarck's theory. What are the examples he cited for supporting this theory? Shall we move? That is examples of Lamarck. The first one you might have heard about, giraffes. So the giraffe, the ancestor giraffe is just like, a small horse-like or dog-like animal with a small, they have equal-sized limbs, 4 limbs are there, and short neck. But gradually what happens, the surrounding areas, the vegetations are fully exhausted, and no vegetation in and around that surrounding and ground level vegetations are fully extinct, so that these particular animal need food. Because of this new need, what happens, this animal stretches its forelimb as well as its neck, so that the neck stretches, and you can see the giraffe's neck is stretched and you have a longer neck in this animal. How this happens? Because the need, they stretches its forelimb and neck, so that that organ is elongated. And consequently what happens, these species, these individual or these animal, it transmit these characters to their offsprings, and it is continued to the successive generations. See, this is a typical example. You can see the photograph, and the forelimb and the neck stretches, and here and there the surroundings and the ground level you can't see any vegetation, and these animals didn't get food, and quite naturally what happens, struggle for existence, it stretches its forelimb as well as neck, so finally a new species is originated. And similarly aquatic birds with webbed toes. See, in the case of ducks, the aquatic birds, the duck, it have webbed feet. How it produced that webbed feet? It's a repeated stretching of the membrane between the toes. Stretching of the membrane between the toes, so that webbed toes or feet is produced in aquatic birds. And similarly, another example for this supporting this theory is extinction of limbs in snakes. Snakes are believed to have evolved from lizard-like ancestors that have 2 pairs of limbs. See, in the case, or if you take the python, there you can see the pelvic girdle and this limb is not used, so that it reduced. Still there you can see the pelvic girdle for attaching the limbs. It is reduced. It is not in use. So that disuse theory it proves. Then likewise you can see the webbed feet of a duck. Then flightless birds, as in the case of ostrich. The due to environmental changes, they had a lot of food, and they were well protected. And these wings are not in use. They stopped using their wings, and as a result, the wings became vestigial. And another example for this, cave dwellers. Though the ancestors of animals living in caves are believed to have powerful eyesight. So, due to living under continuous dark conditions, they lost their power to see. And all these things clearly reveal that Lamarck's theory cannot account for all the observations made about life on Earth. The theory implies that all organisms would gradually become complex. Maybe the progressive evolution, simple forms to a complex form. And he believes in that. And simple organisms gradually disappear from our Earth. See, this is actually the second section of the examples. How many examples he cited for supporting this theory? The first one, we know the giraffe's neck. Giraffe's neck, what happens? Giraffes, the ancestor of giraffe is just like a horse or donkey. And from the surroundings or in the environment in which they live, the surface vegetations are over. Then they struggle for getting food. Only the tree species have leaves. Quite naturally, they stretch to get that food, neck as well as forelimbs. So that organ is continuously used. What happens? It stretches and use and disuse. Then these characters, then after attaining a particular length of neck and forelimbs, these individual or these animal only survives, and these surviving animal produces offsprings with the same characters. That means the acquired characters are inherited to their offsprings. And finally, what happens? That new species is produced. Similarly, in the case of water birds like duck, duck usually they are not using wings for their flying, but they are usually the water birds. They swim in water. Because of this swimming activity, it usually stretches the leg in between the membrane, becomes become webbed. So webbed leg, webbed feet, as in the case of duck or water birds. Another example is in the case of ostriches. In ancestral ostriches, they can fly even a longer height. But the environment changes, and they get enough food from the surroundings. They never used their wings. So finally, what happens? The wing became the vestigial. It is not used for flying. Similarly, in the another example cited is in the case of snakes. If you take python and all, you can see the pelvic girdle with attaches this hind limb, and the limb is not used. And because of this unwanted organ, it reduces. Still there you can see that pelvic girdle attaching that the hind limb. That is most probably originated from the lizards. Their ancestor may be the lizard. And without using that leg, that is functionless, finally became vestigial. So these are all the examples for supporting Lamarck's theory. Then let's move on to the criticism of Lamarck's theory. So the Weismann's, the German biologist proposed the theory of continuity of germplasm in 1892. Continuity of germplasm, and this theory, this theory says that, two fundamentally different kinds of materials. The living bodies are formed of two fundamentally different kinds of materials. One is germplasm and somatoplasm. Germplasm means the protoplasm present inside the egg or sperms or ova or sperms, and somatoplasm means the protoplasm present in the vegetative cells, body cells. The germplasm is responsible for the development of reproductive parts and remains in the organism sealed and secluded from the somatoplasm which develop out of the germplasm. So this is the basic principle of Weismann's germplasm theory. And one experiment he have conducted, and that Weismann's experiment, in 19 what he did is, he removed the tail of mice for about 22 generations. The first generation, he cut the tails or chopped off the tails, and again mated with the individuals. And the third generation is again produced up to 24 generations. The tail was chopped. The offsprings of the 22nd generation also had a tail as long as in the original parents. So Mendel's law of inheritance also disproved Lamarck's theory. And he believed this criticism, the acquired characters may not transmit to the offsprings. He explained this example of blacksmith. As you know, the blacksmith has strong arms and strong, well-developed muscle in the right hand due to the nature of their work. He proposed that any children a blacksmith conceives will not inherit the development of strong muscles. Again, we can cite another example. If a bodybuilder, he never transmitted his, the well-developed muscles in their offsprings. Then similarly, in the case of circumcision of penis in Jews and Muslims, but it is not inherited to the next generation. Another typical example, piercing of pinna or nose in Indian women is never inherited to the next generation. These are all the evidences to disprove Lamarck's theory or criticize the Lamarck's theory. Then coming to neo-Lamarckism, a modified form of Lamarckism is called neo-Lamarckism. The Lamarckism proposes that the environment does influence an organism and change its heredity. Environment does sometimes. At least some of the variations occurred by an individual can be passed off to the or passed on to the offsprings. Internal vital force and appetency do not play any role. Appetency, desire, do not play any role in evolution. Only those variations are passed on to the offspring, which also affect the germ cells, or where somatic cell give rise to germ cells. Only the the things happens in the germplasm that only transmitted to the offsprings. Evidences in favor of the inheritance of acquired characters support the neo-Lamarckism. This much about today's class. Any doubt in this? We have learned the Lamarckism in 3 sessions. One is Lamarck's theory, and the second thing is the experimental support, and the third session we deal with the criticism of Lamarckism, and finally neo-Lamarckism. Any doubt in this? Shall we stop today? Thank you very much.